Welcome to the Gita in Action podcast. My name's Radha, here with our Gita family, and we're reading through the Gita verse by verse. We're in a really sweet section. We're coming up to a really sweet section where Krishna is going to start to describe some of his principal opulences. And that's going to go on for like the next 20 verses. So by the time that we're done with this section, we should all be walking around the world seeing Krishna everywhere and everything. This is the objective of this section for
Haribol.
us. So, Haribo. So before we get into that, Shakti, do you want to say our prayers for us?
Hare Krishna, yes, thank you. Om Jnana Timirandasya Yananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Umilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Bishtam Shtapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kara Mayam Dandati Sa Pandatikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Parakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagarajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savarhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Sri Radha Krishna Padan Saha Gana Lalita Shri Vishakans Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kancha Garungi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Prananami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhuvya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavembhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadahar Srivasari Guru Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Thank you.
Before we start, I want to just add, if anyone wants to follow along, these are the prayers that are right in the beginning. They're in the introduction of the Bhagavad Gita. So if you want to follow along, learn them, that's where they are.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Shakti. Okay, I think we're starting with text 19 today. Text 19. So I will share my screen. And whenever you're ready, Stella.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Antate Kathayasyami Divyahi Atma Vibhutaya Pradhanyataha Kuru Shrestha Naste Anto Vista Rasyame. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Yes, I will tell you of my splendorous manifestations, but only of those which are prominent, O Arjuna, for my opulence is limitless."
Okay, so if we remember, Arjuna and Krishna, they're having this conversation, and we had those four nutshell verses of the Gita where Krishna really gave the essence of the Gita. His talked about his identity as the source of everything and his loving reciprocal relationships with his devotees. And Arjuna has now accepted Krishna as the supreme absolute truth. And now after that he asked him something like super practical. He said, Krishna, help me understand how you exist within this world. Like, how can I see you here? And so now what we're hearing is Krishna answering that request. And like I said at the beginning here, for the next 21 or 22 verses, Krishna's going to list what are called his vibhutis, which just means his special manifestations throughout creation. And but before he even starts this list, he gives us this disclaimer. He essentially says, okay, I'll tell you of my glories. I'll tell you of my glories. They're endless. My glories are endless. And if a normal person said something like this, when they're like introducing themselves, my glories are endless, we'd probably think that they're like incredibly like arrogant, or maybe even just a little bit crazy. So we have to understand the context of how Krishna is speaking here. If Krishna were proud or status hungry, he wouldn't be doing what he's doing right now, which is driving Arjuna's chariot. He's serving as Arjuna's chariot driver in this battle. It's not like he's like sitting on a throne being served. He's taken himself, or he's taken like the most humble position as a servant for his devotee. This is such a beautiful, beautiful theme in the Gita that we don't want to forget. For all the opulence that Arjuna has, or Arjuna, for all the opulence that Krishna has, I mean, Arjuna has opulence too, but all the opulence that Krishna has, he will come and take the most humble position as the servant of his devotee, just out of love. Okay, and this is not the role that someone chasing prestige would choose. So we have to understand he's not glorifying himself out of ego here. He's just answering Arjuna's question, and at the same time, giving us all a way to redirect our attention. Because the reality is, we're already attracted to the things in this world. We look around, we're attracted to beautiful people, successful athletes, celebrities, amazing buildings. We look around, like when I saw Jennifer Jewell in her beautiful blue sky background, I was like, that's beautiful. Where are you? We're attracted to these things, the things of the world. Right? So Krishna's point in this chapter, and this is like if you hear chapter 10, this is what we should think immediately. This is the point that Krishna's making in this chapter, that all of the attractive things that we see are just a tiny spark of his splendor. It's just a tiny spark of his splendor. And so when Krishna's saying in this verse, my glories are endless, we can think of it like if someone's really sick and they need urgent surgery and the doctor's telling them like, you really need this operation. But the patient is kind of hesitant, he's like, how do I know that you're qualified? Like maybe I should go to another doctor. So then the doctor says like, actually, I performed this surgery hundreds of times. And those other doctors that you're thinking about, they're actually my students. Like I trained them. So if that statement's true, it's not arrogance. It's just like necessary information so the patient can make the right decision. So similarly, the conditioned soul, all of us, we wonder, like, if I surrender to Krishna, will I really be happy? Maybe happiness is somewhere else, like money, success, relationships, enjoyment. So this is Krishna explaining, like, whatever attractive thing you see in this world, it's just a spark of my brilliance. He's just really breaking it down. He's giving us like the manual to life. Like, okay, you can go and see all those things. You can look for pleasure out of all of those things, but you should understand that they're just a spark of my brilliance. Like a spark just gives like a little bit of light. But the sun gives unlimited light. So all of the attractive things of this world are just like that, just like little sparks. And Krishna is the source of that fire. And what happens in this world, because we don't understand that connection, our desires become misdirected. And we end up just chasing the sparks instead of the source. And this misdirection of these desires, from God to temporary things, we're chasing all these sparks instead of just connecting with the source. It's actually the root of our suffering. It's actually why we even suffer in this world. And the beautiful thing is, and the Gita teaches us, spiritual life isn't about killing those desires. It's about redirecting those desires. And to redirect those desires requires understanding. So that's what Krishna is giving in this chapter. He's teaching us how to go over about the world and all of the magnificent things that we see, think of him. And in that way, they bring us back to him. So that's this chapter. Krishna's going to begin describing his vibhutis. Again, the word vibhuti means special manifestation. So just something in the world that has like extraordinary power or beauty or influence. So Krishna is basically saying when you see something exceptional, something impressive, something extraordinary, remember that it reflects a spark of my glory. And that's a spark of my glory. So that's what this chapter is called. It's called Vibhuti Yoga. Yoga means connection, so Vibhuti Yoga means learning how the extraordinary things of this world can connect us back to Krishna. And I want us all to take a minute here, because the truth is we're all naturally attracted to greatness. I think of like that movie Wicked came out last year. And I love that story. I loved the movie. But then I got like super obsessed into the movie because I was so just like, whoa, this is incredible. And I learned that like the actresses in the movie, like they didn't lip sync any of that. So like all the scenes where they're flying around and doing all these crazy things is like them actually singing while they're doing all these things. And they both have just like these incredible voices. I kind of went down like a rabbit hole for like a whole day of just like Ariana Grande, Cynthia Griffith, just like I was so into it. Like, who are these people? How do they do this? Like, this is just insane, that they can do this. It's really impressive. And so Krishna's saying, okay, you see something, it's amazing. It's like exceptional. Understand that that is a spark of my glory. And when we see it like that, we're like, whoa, right? Like, whoa, who is this person that something like that is just a tiny spark? Like, what else to make you really want to know, want to love, want to be in relationship with that is the source? And we can all think of something like that, a movie star, a singer, an athlete, you know. And when we understand this beauty comes from Krishna, this strength, this intelligence, whatever it is that we're just incredibly attracted to. What happens is the attraction, it doesn't just stop at the object. It moves through the object to the source. And this shift in perception is called yoga. This is how, when we see this connection between that special manifestation and God, our attraction itself becomes spiritualized. It's just kind of amazing. This is the beautiful thing about bhakti. You don't have to like stop going down rabbit holes of incredible singers and actresses necessarily. But while you're doing that, understand, the perspective of reality that what you're so infatuated with is actually a small spark of Krishna.
Radha,
So,
could
yeah.
you say that again, that through line, but what you said before? Could you just
Yeah.
that connection? Could you
So
just
what
say it
happens?
again and the way you
Yeah.
said it?
Yeah, and let's all just like take it through like a little experience. Like let's all think about something that we're really attracted to in this world. Something we're really attracted to. Maybe we've gone down a rabbit hole of just like studying or pursuing. Okay, and understand that our attraction, when we understand that whatever it is that you're thinking of, whatever's beautiful, whatever's strong, whatever's intelligent, whatever it is that you're thinking of, comes from Krishna. Okay, so think about that for a second. Whatever you're thinking about comes from Krishna. What happens is the attraction doesn't stop at the object. The attraction moves through the object to the source. And it's this very shift in perception that is yoga. Yoga means to connect, right? So now you're connecting to God through your attraction to this object. And it's this attraction that becomes spiritualized and it's connecting you with God. And so this is the very purpose of this chapter. It's not that we become absorbed in the manifestations themselves. Like we don't want to just stop at being obsessed with Ariana Grande's voice and ability to just to sing while she's doing incredible dancing. We don't want to just become obsessed with that as it is. No, the purpose is to understand that these extraordinary things remind us of Krishna. And in that way, they become signposts that just point us back to divinity. Without that connection to Krishna, they really just become ways to just enjoy ourselves, right? Ways to just come back to the ego. And we all know what coming back to the ego does. We get stuck in comparison or anxiety, right? Or I mean, so many things that ego does to us. It's really the root of our suffering, thinking that we're the centers. Now, when we can connect what we're seeing back to the actual center, right, then we're connecting with God. And there's no greater joy and bliss in life than that. And so this is the whole purpose of this chapter. And now we're going to start going through the whole list of 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 some of these special manifestations. What do you guys think?
I right away, what I thought was the idea of having this having finding that well, so let's say it's Ariana, I don't know who she is, but
Grande. You don't know
right.
who Ariana Grande is?
I do,
Gotta
but I
Google
don't
her.
really care. I have no like whatever. But for me, but if we take that and I put that on like Malati, who was doing all of these great speaking Bhagavatam classes at New Vrindavan, and I say, wow, I really aspire to attain the knowledge that she has um, to be able to understand the Bhagavatam the way she explains it, like that's for me. That's kind of I feel like that's where I am. I'm like the material world, like all of that stuff. It's uninteresting to me, you
Yeah.
know. So like that could
Wonderful.
be,
A
yeah,
great speaker. Yeah, just like that. A really profound speaker.
yeah.
Perfect. But understand that that is Krishna's a spark of Krishna's
Mhm,
splendor.
mhm.
Yeah, it's amazing. Nice example. Thank you.
I was
Anybody else have
thinking of
any?
the
Yeah.
Olympians too, like whenever,
Oh, yeah.
like going off the ski jump or something, I'm like, wow, Krishna's the ability in man. Like, how could they do that?
It's
So it's
unreal.
like, I mean, besides, when I look at my cat and I just feel this great love, it's like still all her beauty comes from Krishna's artistry in creating that creature. Like
Yes.
what a beautiful piece of art and joy that Krishna, provides us like that.
Yes. Yes.
I'm trying to
Beautiful.
connect my cat obsession.
I think your cat obsession just fits in very nicely still. Just offer it to Krishna. That's all we got to do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Carlo. Oh, so happy to see you raising your hand. Please share with us.
Well, thank you. Well, it reminds me of, and correct me if it seems like it's incorrect, but it reminds me of, I believe it came from like some haiku, but to not mistake the finger for the moon.
Mm.
So the finger is, often a teacher will be confused, like, oh, I love this teacher. And it's like, no, the teacher is just actually pointing to the moon. The moon is the actual Krishna.
Yeah.
Right? Is that in the air?
Perfect. That's it. I haven't heard that haiku, but that's it.
I'll check
Yeah.
the actual thing.
Yeah, yeah. If you find it and you could post it on the chat. Yeah, thank you. That's perfect. And to think that that's what we're doing in our every single day, day-to-day existence, our ups and downs, we're misdirecting our appreciation, our desires. Not that the things of this world shouldn't be appreciated, because they should, but in perspective. The greatest appreciation should be for the creator, should be for the maintainer. Okay? That's the real source of everything. It's like when a kid gets food out of the fridge and they think, "Oh, thank you so much, fridge, for providing this food." Like my daughter will go up to the fridge and just go, she'll point to it. She thinks that the food comes from the fridge, but she doesn't understand that the parents actually stock the fridge. Like, okay, I know you love those blueberries, honey, but I put those blueberries in there, so don't get so excited about the fridge. But that's what we're all doing as we walk around. We see these things, we get so excited. It's great, but understand. And when we understand, when we just take that little extra conscious effort to remember Krishna, what's happening is we're connecting to Krishna. This is the process. It's very simple. It's very simple, but that process, just in remembering Krishna, we're connecting with Krishna. What do you think, Nancy? Oh, you're on mute.
Thank you so much. A couple of things I was thinking about was, one, trying to actually find that divine spark in everybody,
Mm,
to not just say the exceptional are exceptional, but to say that everything and everyone is exceptional. And the other thing well, a couple of things, because I've been listening to some lectures by Hari Prasad Das from the Sharanagati retreat that happened in Govardhan Hill, that speaking about boga, which is pleasure, that boga is created by Krishna to give jivas their independence, essentially, so that
mm,
you might be so enraptured by Ariana Grande. Shakti doesn't know who she is, but there is this other person. So we have this individuality that gives us this ability to see the supreme in so many different ways. And it's really nice to be able to try to tease that out. And the other thing is that if indeed we make that connection, we see Krishna through somebody's accomplishments, whether it's just, this barista made a great cup of coffee or whatever it might be, to be able to say then, I am letting envy start to lose envy in my life, that
mm,
tendency to look at somebody great and say, oh, I could have done that. Yeah, well, it's no big deal. I could be better than this. So it really starts to remove that kind of tendency to put my ego in place to say, well, they're great, but I'm greater in some way. And I think that's, to me, very important to message from, and it also, this whole section harkens back to 7:8, in chapter 7, verse 8. I am the taste of water, the radiance of the sun and the moon. It's reiterating his greatness. So those are my thoughts. Thank you so much.
beautiful. Wow, those are really great thoughts. Thank you, Nancy. Hey, this envy, there's six anartas, right? Lust, anger, greed, envy, pride, illusion, right? Is that the six? Anyway, of those, envy is the only one that can't be or can't be directed, like redirected to Krishna. Everything else can be used in Krishna's service, but envy cannot be. But I love what you just said, that we connect when we really connect with source. We go on Instagram, we see these people that are incredibly athletic, and instead of thinking, wow, I'm so out of shape, what's wrong with me, instead of that kind of material mindset, we see, wow, look at Krishna's opulence, look at this little spark of Krishna's opulence. Just like that shift in mindset, our envy is dissolved. So it can't be redirected. Envy can't be redirected, but it can be dissolved when we see things in that light, when we see people in that light, when we see, yeah, God in everyone and everything. Beautiful. Perfect. Thank you. And also what you said is perfect segue for the next verse. I we'll just get right into it, and then but that's seeing God in everyone. That's where we're going next. So when you're ready, Stella, verse 20.
Aham Atma Gudakesha Sarvabhutasayashitaha Ahamadischa Madhyam Cha Bhutanam Anta Eva Cha. I am the Supersoul, O Arjuna, seated in the hearts of all living entities. I am the beginning, the middle, and the end of all beings.
Perfect. Thank you. So now Krishna begins describing his opulences. And then it's interesting where he starts, before he talks about the mountains, the rivers, celestial beings, he begins with something much closer. He says, I am the super soul seated in the hearts of all living beings. So in other words, Krishna or God isn't just somewhere far away in the spiritual sky. He's also present within every living being, just like Nancy said, guiding from within as God in the heart. So when Krishna begins explaining how he pervades the universe, he starts with explaining it in terms of space and time. With space, he's saying there's countless living beings in the universe. Humans, animals, insects, birds, aquatic animals. And Krishna says, in the heart of every one of them, I am present. So, Stella, that's for your cat. Shout out for your cat. There is a super soul inside of that cat. God is in the heart of that cat. No, and so no one is alone. Krishna is accompanying every living being as the super soul, witnessing, guiding, giving remembrance, knowledge, forgetfulness. It's so sweet. And then Krishna speaks about time. He says, I'm the beginning, I'm the middle, I'm the end of all beings. This is, this is all encompassing. Krishna's the beginning. Everything comes from him. We know that. He's the middle. He's maintaining everything. We like to think that we maintain our own lives. I work, I make my money, I maintain myself, my family. I'm managing responsibilities. I'm holding things together. I feel like that when I'm nursing my daughter. I'm like, look at me. I can nurse, I can feed my child. This is amazing. But again, if we step back and think about it, who's actually sustaining all of this? Like even when I'm nursing my child, like I don't do anything. Like it's all just like happens. It's just like spontaneous. All of a sudden I'm able to supply food to my child, but it's not me. And this is what happens. We tend to over-identify with our bodies, with ourselves, and we start getting really proud, thinking, "Wow, look at how great I am. Look at these things I can do." But if we step back and think about it, who's actually sustaining all of this? It's Krishna. He's the one actually maintaining everything. Our heart's beating. We don't think about our hearts beating. It's just happening. It's at the very root of it. Krishna's maintaining everything. We might contribute something, but the reality is that Krishna's maintaining us completely. Whatever we contribute is just like a tiny, tiny little, you know, contribution. And then Krishna says that he's the end. So later in this chapter, Krishna will explain that he's death as well. Nothing is more final than death. And Krishna saying that even in that final moment, the end of the body is also under his control. So just with this one verse, Krishna is showing us something super profound. He's present within all beings. He sustains us throughout our lives. And he remains in control even at the end. So this is just really defining space and time. Krishna is space and time. If we really understand this begins to shift our consciousness. Because Krishna's not just something that we remember occasionally, like if we're doing a ritual or we're at a temple or a church. He's already present within us. He's already sustaining us. He's already accompanying us through every moment of our existence. You sit down to eat a meal, the power of your digestion. It's Krishna. You're not doing anything. This has all just been given to you. This is all just happening like automatically. You go to the grocery store, the person who's checking you out, Krishna's in their heart. Krishna's in their heart. So in this way, when we start to understand that Krishna's in every living being's heart, including my own, Krishna's the beginning, Krishna's the end, Krishna's maintaining. How could we not be constantly thinking of Krishna just off of this alone? This first verse of him describing his vibhutis. How could we not think of Krishna? He's everywhere. He's pervading all of space and all of time. So it's funny to think of, how forgetful we are. It's just like that little kid who forgets that, oh, actually my parents are maintaining me. The kid likes to think like I'm doing it all on my own. I remember that when I was a kid, right? My mom's on this call right now, but she remembers that, I'm sure, when I'm like, I don't need you. I'm doing this all on my own. It's like, well, actually, I'm living in your house and I'm eating the food that you buy and provide and cook and put in the fridge. And it's like, but we just love to feel like I got this. I'm doing this on my own. And when we really think about this, it's such a juvenile, such an immature conception that it's easy for us to see in children, but it's not so easy for us to see in ourselves. But the reality is that's what we're doing. We're walking around so ungrateful that God is supplying the air in my lungs and the ability of my lungs to even, you know, I don't know what the medical or what the functional term for that is, but use the air to fuel my body. We just forget. We're constantly forgetting. So this chapter is trying to teach us, remember. Right? It's trying to help us remember, because it's in that remembrance that you'll feel whole, that you'll be connected with what is whole, and in that you'll feel whole. You won't feel empty anymore. You won't feel broken anymore. You'll feel happy, connected, right? And you'll be forever with me. It's like what's better than that? Should we move on to the next one? Does anybody have anything to share around that? Okay, let's move on to the next one. 21. Whenever you're ready, Stella.
Adityanam aham Vishnur Yotisam Ravir Am Suman Ma Marichir Marutam Asmi Naksatranam Aham Sasi. Of the Adityas, I am Vishnu. Of lights, I am the radiant sun. Of the Maruts, I am Marichi. And among the stars, I am the moon.
Perfect. Thank you. So in this section of the chapter, Krishna is continuing to explain his vibhutis. We're walking through this, his extraordinary manifestations within the world. Okay, and just if we just notice the pattern that he's using, over and over, Krishna will take a category of things and then he'll point to the most powerful or most beautiful or most extraordinary example within that category. Okay, and then he'll say, that represents me. And we may not so much understand or relate with some of these examples because some of them are like Vedic examples that aren't so prevalent in our culture and our time right now. But we can understand the principle of what he's doing. And I'll just, so that you guys kind of understand even the specific examples, I'll just point them out a little bit so they make a little bit more sense. But that's what we really want to take away here is the principle of what he's doing. And so, but the first thing he mentions is the adityas. Okay, so according to Vedic cosmology, the path of the sun across the sky is divided into 12 sections. Anybody's like into astrology or something like this, there's these 12 sections of the path of the sun across the sky, and each section is presided over by a particular deity, and that deity is called Aditya. Okay, so each of these 12 houses have a presiding deity. Okay, the most prominent one is Vishnu. So that's the first example here when he says of all the Adityas, I'm Vishnu. He's essentially saying, among all the powerful celestial controllers, the most powerful one represents me. Okay, that's what he's saying here. And then he moves something to something that's more familiar to us, the sun. He says, of all the lights, I'm the radiant sun. Okay, so we all get that. There's many sources of light in the universe. There's stars, planets, fires, electricity. But the sun stands out in a really unique way. Like nothing trumps the sun. The sun sustains everything in life. So he's saying among all those luminous things, the sun represents my splendor. Okay? And then he mentions the Maruts. Okay, and this is again in Vedic cosmology, there's controllers of the wind. Sometimes when we look at nature, like things appear random to us. The wind is blowing this way or that way. Storms are moving this way or that way. And so from our limited perspective, it just seems like this just random chaotic forces that are at work. We don't really think about it because we can't see it. But the reality is that there's these there's these controllers of these different forces that are making this happen. Kind of like if you're playing like pool, like a pool table, and that somebody has the stick in their hand and they hit a ball and all the balls go all different ways. It's like if you're sitting on the table, you don't see the stick, you just see the balls going all different ways. Right? But if you're like looking at the pool table, you see that there's a stick in the hand and that somebody is shooting that ball that's actually making everything go. So this is the way we can understand there's forces at work in this universe that we don't see and that we just even take for granted, like they're just happening. They're random, they're chaotic, weather patterns, whatever. It's just because we don't see it, we think it doesn't exist. Right? This is like a symptom of our very finite, self-centered, um, mentality. But the reality is that these forces have their own controllers. There's its own, the own way that the universe is happening, and it's under the control of Krishna. And then he has these like cosmic administrators that are making these things happen. Okay, so that's what when he says this, when he says the Marutas, that's what he's talking about here. Similarly, this Vedic cosmology explains that behind the forces of nature, there's intelligent agencies directing them, and among the Maruts, the controllers of the wind, the most prominent is Marcy. So Krishna is saying that among them, he's Marcy. Okay, but again, the principle is the same. The most extraordinary within a category reflects Krishna's glory. And this is the theme of this whole chapter. We can summarize it like the one among the many can help us remember the one above the many. So in other words, when we see something extraordinary in this world, it's great, it's beautiful, it's got a lot, it's powerful, it's super intelligent. Stella's beautiful cat and Shakti's, exalted speaker. These things, it naturally attracts our attention. But instead of just stopping there, if we stop there, what happens is we get stuck in our ego. We get stuck in comparison. We get stuck in we even maybe just get infatuated, like we want that person's attention or love, or we should understand this is our ego talking. Because Vibhuti Yoga invites us to follow that attraction back to its source. So when you see something really magnificent or someone really magnificent and you start getting trapped in that ego game, you start feeling like bad about yourself, or you start feeling like you want their attention or whatever it is that your ego is doing to you. Use that as a warning sign. Like, look, you just haven't gone far enough. You're suffering because you haven't gone far enough. You need to connect that thing to the source, that person to source. You need to see that thing in its proper perspective, and that is that it's just a spark of Krishna's glory. And when you do that, when you use the one among the many to remember the one above the many, then you've really achieved the real purpose of life. which is to connect back with God and experience and take our constitutional position as a servant of God. And in that experience the utmost joy and connection and bliss that is available for us here. What do you think, Stella?
I think I see too when, it's not just like when you stop at, say, a powerful person, you can not only compare yourself with them or think they're greater, but also identify with them. And that leads you down could lead you down, well, a good path if it's a person of integrity and goodness, but also a dark path if it's somebody who is not very good. Like, it's like you lose your intelligence if you say, well, this person is who I'm going to follow, no matter what, without looking beyond. That person is fallible. And I think that's a mistake a lot of people make. They may not even feel bad about themselves, but they're giving all their treasure to somebody who's may have some good qualities, but is not um is not, trustworthy because they're material and they're limited and they're whatever. I just feel like everything going on in the world today is partly because people do that.
Yeah. Wow. Beautiful point. Thank you, Stella. Yeah, that absolutely happens. I mean, I think I can think of times I've done that in my life. I become so like infatuated with somebody's great ability to speak or to influence that I just like then just blindly followed everything they do and say until it's like, what am I doing? Because just like you said, they're valuable. It only takes so long to of getting really close to that person that you start to see, oh wait, actually they're just human. And yeah, we get confused. We get confused. We That's exactly what happens. Beautiful. Or, that the person that we're so obsessed with, or, maybe they're an athlete or, eventually their performance is going to decline and that ultimately their extraordinary human talent is going to be temporary. It's just a spark. And then what? Then we're disappointed. So this is exactly what happens when we stop there. When we stop there instead of using the one among the many to connect to the one above the many. That should be just like a trigger. Notice when we're doing that in our lives now as we walk around. Notice when we're doing it. And let's make the conscious effort to take that one step further and use that appreciation, infatuation, whatever it be, to connect with God. Use it to bring us home. Because that was his intention. That's why he gave us the Gita. That's why he's giving us this knowledge to teach us how to do that. As he understands, we're going to do that. It's our nature. We're going to do that. We're going to be attracted to these things. But don't stop there, or you'll lose and you'll suffer. What do you think, Shakti?
So here's where I'm connecting to you on that rabbit hole of Instagram, where I just go on, let's say I'll post like something really nice, maybe I'm posting, and then it comes up, somebody's doing a handstand, and they're doing a big back bend and their toes are almost touching their back. I'm like, how come I can't do that? I can never do the handstand. I can't do my shoulders or this or my, and then I get into this like how I'm not physically enough to do a lot of the things that I see. And then I'm just getting older. I'm getting older. And so it's the ability to do a lot of those things is getting it's gonna not it's not like it could happen anymore because my body's getting older and I physically can't do a lot of the things that I used to do, and it makes me so upset. And I go down this rabbit hole and I go, see, George, look at this. And George goes, what are you doing? Get off of that. Stop it. Stop doing that. And then like eventually I do, but it's like I don't know what it is about like why do I need to do that? Why do I need to like, look at this person doing, things that some things that I used to be able to do and I can't do them anymore because I'm older and my shoulders just are like, please don't do that, you
Hmm.
know? And
Yeah.
it's hard. It's really hard, to because I know through Krishna consciousness, through everything that I see and do that it's my body, it's my physical body. It's just
Yeah.
my suit, but it's getting older and there are things that I no longer can do. And it's I guess it's just hard to accept,
Hmm.
like because I used to actually do it anyway
Yeah.
and then get
Right.
hurt.
Right. But you can't anymore.
But I can't. Like last time I did it, I did a handstand and I fractured my collarbone, fell on my head, and I had to go to the ER. My son was in the next room and I was screaming and he's like, "What happened?" And it was just like a whole ordeal. And so it was almost like I kept doing it. And
Yeah.
Krishna finally just said, like, okay, I need to show you that you can't do this anymore. Like I
Yeah.
felt like not in a negative way. I felt like he was trying to say, Stacy, Shakti, I know you want to do this, but you need to accept physically that you cannot no longer do this. And it's almost like my head is so hard that I need something like that. Not so much anymore. I feel like maybe
Sure.
I'm getting a little bit better, but it's like something like big and painful to
Yeah.
tell me that I can no longer do these things. I don't know.
Shakti,
Yeah.
I can show you 5 or 6 exercises that you will be able to do it and your shoulders will be just fine. When are you coming to
Hmm.
the retreat?
In
No,
April?
no, she can't come.
Yes.
She'll be
Chicken?
in
Okay.
Europe.
Oh, but I can do some of them and I'll send the video to you
Okay,
Yes,
thank you,
yes.
Kay.
and you will be
But
able to do it for sure. I can tell you because I had
yeah, so
a year
so
ago. What?
no, this is great. Maybe you guys can connect offline around
Yes.
around
Yes.
that. Yeah. But the beautiful gift here that we see in this is that even this gift of old age, as our bodies are getting older, as they're kind of breaking down, or I have a similar thing, Shakti, like I thought like I had tons of time to have kids, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh wait, my body's getting too old. It's like this can bring us back to Krishna. Because this realization, look, I'm finite, I'm temporary. My body is not what it used to be. What better, this is such a gift because it gets us out of this mindset of like, look, when we're in our 20s and we think that we're just in what's that word? We're inconquerable or in like,
Invincible.
yes. Yes. Yes, invincible. It's like if we are always in that mindset, we are never going to realize that, hey, wait, actually, I'm not. I'm finite. I'm temporary. But wait, what is infinite? What is eternal? This is Krishna. And in that we have so much, our appreciation and our humility just grows. And that's what the whole purpose of this body is, of this material existence is to take us on that journey so that by the time we get to that point, where our body is just done, we're ready. We're like, I get it. This has been something else, but I'm ready to just come home to you because I understand. I'm not the center. I'm not invincible. I'm not God, and they're not God. This person's not God. This thing is I'm ready. This is what Krishna's preparing us for, and all these steps along the way are just our gifts, our reminders to help us get there. Yeah, really nice. And then the last thing in this verse that Krishna says, he says, among the stars, I'm the moon. So same thing here, in the night sky, there's many celestial bodies, but the moon is just especially captivating. When you look up at the night sky, it's often the moon that's just immediately drawing your attention. It's like cool light, its beauty, its presence. It's just attractive. So Krishna's saying that even in that beauty, even in that attraction, when we see the moon, it ultimately comes from him. So instead of stopping looking at the moon itself, we can just let it remind us of the one who created that beauty. And that's what this chapter is trying to teach us to do. Let the moon become a reminder of Krishna. The next time that you're just feeling especially impressed, especially attracted, especially infatuated, just take a step back and let that thing, let that person, let that, whatever it is, that yoga pose, you know, remind you of Krishna. You don't have to think, oh, they're so great, or oh, I'm so terrible. Okay, both those sides of the extreme is the ego. No, you could just say, wow, that's Krishna, right? Bring it back to the root, bring it back to the center. And in that, you connect more with Krishna. You get pulled out of your ego. We all know what happens when we get pulled out of our ego. We just become nicer, more loving, more compassionate people. And so this is the essence of this vibhuti yoga. The extraordinary things in the world, they don't have to pull our consciousness away from God. They can actually lead our consciousness back to him. And we choose. You can choose to just be pulled, and like Stella said, just be like surrendered to the things in this world and get really confused. Okay? When you realize that they're actually infallible, whether it be or infallible, maybe it's fallible, faulty. When you learn that they're actually temporary, they're actually, whether it be others or yourself, whatever it is, it's just confusion. Or you can see these things as and use it as a way to remind yourself of Krishna. See these things as a spark of Krishna's splendor. And in that way, they're leading you back to him. So this is our challenge this week as we go through and we see these things in ourselves. Come back. This is Krishna's telling us, come back. This world is made for you to come back. And I'm giving you all these things. And now I'm giving you the Gita. I'm teaching you how to do it. Come back. What do you think, Aaron?
Well, I'm just thinking how much I appreciate this class and having these conversations because I think it's so easy to surround yourself with things that are intended to remind you of Krishna. And those things, like I'm just thinking like at my desk, like I don't have pictures of deities at my desk at work, but like I have, a little peacock statue and a peacock feather and the New Vrindavan calendar. There are some things, there's like a little magnet of Prabhupada, but I become like really numb to them almost. Like I take them for granted, much like I take, breathing for granted and my heart beating and, all these things. So, uh, um, yeah, I think part of me is wondering like how do you keep these things like ever fresh and like ever on your mind? But part of the answer I feel like is obviously, this type of association because, it's obviously very front of mind right now. But yeah, it's just like that challenge of like continuing it throughout your day. Because I definitely know there are so many times where I'm like, absorbed in whatever I'm doing, be it work or personal. And then I'm like, wow, like 8 hours just went by and I didn't like think of Krishna once, or just, having that kind of experience.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. And sometimes it's like we have these things on our desk and we think, okay, that's my spiritual life. But now I have to deal with real life. It's like, well, actually, the two can be intertwined. And we can all practice this. The next time you see something extremely attractive that starts to pull you, remember Krishna. and notice how different you even feel. Notice how your relationship with what you're looking at even changes. Where Shakti is like you're looking at that Instagram photo and it's feeling so unhealthy for you. What would it be like for that to actually be like feel healthy? 'Cause that same picture can connect you to Krishna if your consciousness is there. If you're seeing, wow, that backbend, this is incredible. Krishna's creation. His splendor manifesting in this person. This is beautiful. That this can happen, and just notice how different it makes you feel, and know that that's Krishna. And we're so fortunate he's giving us this manual of living, this guidebook, so that we can start to transform our consciousness, and these things can start to bring us up instead of bringing us down and operating at the ego platform. It's like almost like a primitive way to live, but we think it's so sophisticated, living at this platform of the ego. Katie.
Hi, Bo. Just two quick ones. Let's see. Okay, when I did a full dislocation of my shoulder in a yoga, like a slip in a yoga pose, so I totally feel you. And from overdoing it for years in the shoulder, like over being too trying to be too flexible. My physical therapist was like, when I could go back to down dog and stuff, she's like, wait, show me. And then she'd be like, stop, what are you doing? And she was like, when I tried to go beyond like the normal range of motion, she'd be like, why and it was just so helpful. Like, right, why is because like maybe comparison or like ego or and again, and also it's like accepting, nope, never going to try ever. I mean, it was an anahatasana and like a weird slip in puppy pose, but I'm never going to attempt a handstand again. And I'm really good with that, honestly. And I think it was her help to just be like, dude, why? And then also, this is kind of a little one, but in seeing Krishna everywhere, sometimes I realize, like, when I get in the car to drive to work, I go through some beautiful areas and I don't usually link them to Krishna until I like get on the highway and the sky is like kind of this full view of this like tall sky. And then I'm like, wow, okay, wow, here we are. Here's Krishna. And I try to think like, okay, just try to remember that every day, not, and like see how much sooner on the drive it can be. So I don't know. I just wanted to share those two little things. Thank you.
Yeah. Perfect. Beautiful. That's it. Thank you. Just like when I saw Jennifer Jewel's picture at the beginning of class and her sky was so blue, I could think, I want to go on vacation. Why is my life so lame? Or, wow, Krishna's really incredible, creating that blue sky and these beautiful places, and that's the difference in consciousness. Same thing, difference in consciousness brings you right up. What do you think, Stella?
And also to be happy for those people who can do that stuff. Like that's their time to do that stuff. Like we're getting older and we can't do stuff. But wow, like the younger people, that's their time to do stuff. It's how happy for them. Like we could also not only see Krishna, but like, and then I thought of that because, there was some descriptions of the spiritual world where people are trying to serve each other, but also be happy that they can serve Krishna even better than one could. So how does one get into that? It might be just like, wow, that person who could do the handstand now, well, they're 25. That's their time. Soon enough, they won't be able to do it.
Yeah.
So it's just time going by. And if time is Krishna, then we could see even that progression of time where everyone has their chance as a circle of just, Krishna's amazingness.
Wow, really profound.
Being happy for someone else really gives you a very happy feeling if you can cultivate it. That's what I've been trying to do, like stop, pause, just be happy for that person. It's sometimes
Mm.
it really and if you say something to them appreciative, it makes their day. I know it makes my day if someone appreciates, is happy for me.
Yes. Yes. Beautiful. Okay, my friends. Well, I think that that's all the time that we have for the day. But
Nice, Radha. Just
yeah.
one, one quick thing.
Oh, yeah,
No, I
George.
just wanted to share, like, yeah, it's, the things that we've been talking about there, being happy for others, but also, realizing that all of us have, beautiful things that we're doing, right? Yeah, I know Shakti shared the whole going down the Instagram rabbit hole. And and she says like how I'm like, what are you doing? And basically I like remind her like there's so many other beautiful things that she's already doing and that she's
Mm,
already involved in and this community she's building, like, being part of this, like there's so much more than this one like
mm,
focused thing.
yeah.
And to realize like there is so much other there's so much other beautiful things that she's already doing, and just to
Yeah.
remember that, you know but even, all of us have our, like, the whole ego thing, like even with Katie, yeah, oh, I can't do that anymore, like this, or why is this person, like, you see something like, oh, I want to do that, I would do that, and it's just
Yeah.
this human nature, right? But also
Yeah.
just realizing that yes, we all have our things that we're good at, and things come and go. But knowing where you're at in this moment, like that is, it's the moment. Like sometimes you're chasing the past, you're chasing the future, but like,
Wow.
hey, here, this, like now, right
Yeah.
now, this is just
Yeah.
be here, be in it each second, each minute right now.
Yeah. Beautiful. So wise, Shakti. You have such a gift there with your husband. Krishna gave you a little gift. Wow. Thank you. Thank you all. Okay. So I think that is all. We will see you all on what's today? We'll see you all on Monday. Okay. Hare Krishna.
Hey,
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.